There's a moment just before you react, where power either builds or leaks. Most men miss it. They go straight from emotion to action, from trigger to explosion. And in that space, they lose themselves. That's where the war is, not outside, but inside. The warrior doesn't dominate through volume. He dominates through control. And it all starts with mastering one thing: mental silence. The world doesn't teach you to be still. It teaches you to respond, to argue, to react. Every insult, every challenge, every interruption is a test. A hook designed to pull you out of your center. But the modern Stoic doesn't bite. He knows that silence is not surrender. It's strategy. It's choosing not to give your energy to everything that demands it, because not everything deserves it. Mental silence isn't passive, it's trained, it's forged in the moments you want to speak but don't. In the heat where others lash out but you hold. You don't deny the emotion, you observe it. You let it rise, and then you cage it. You choose not to be a slave to noise. That's where dominance begins, not in overpowering others, but in mastering the battlefield within. Silence is often mistaken for weakness by those who rely on noise to feel powerful. But a man who controls his reactions is not weak. He's weaponized. He's measured. He speaks when it's time, not when he's triggered. And when he does, it lands like stone. That's what makes him different. He's not trying to win arguments. He's focused on winning the war inside his own head. That's where real battles are fought and won. You start to feel this shift when you no longer need to match someone's energy. Someone disrespects you, and instead of firing back, you assess, not because you're afraid, but because you value your control more than your ego. Your silence says what your anger never could. I see you, I understand you, and I choose not to join you. That's power. That's poise. That's mental dominance. And as you train this, you begin to feel the separation. You no longer flinch when provoked. You no longer feel the need to respond to everything. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much about your peace. You don't need to be right. You need to stay sharp. You don't need to react to be respected. You need to remain grounded. That shift turns you into a different kind of man, the one people notice, not because he's loud, but because he's locked in. Control is not about suppressing the storm, it's about learning how to walk through it without being moved. The modern Stoic understands this. Emotions aren't enemies, they're signals. But not every signal deserves a response. You feel the heat rise in your chest, your jaw tightens, your pulse climbs. That's when the training kicks in. You don't run from it. You don't unleash it. You hold it. You own it. You stand in it without shaking. This is the art of mental silence, not muting yourself, but mastering the pause. The second between impulse and action, the moment most people waste. But not you. You've learned that dominance doesn't come from reacting faster. It comes from thinking deeper. From having the discipline to remain calm when others expect chaos. From being the still point in a spinning world. It's a different kind of strength, one they won't understand. Because they expect anger, they expect retaliation. But instead, they're met with stillness, presence, a stare that says more than words ever could. And that unnerves people. Not because you're aggressive, but because you're unshaken. You don't defend yourself with volume. You defend yourself with composure. And that kind of silence? That's the silence of someone who's dangerous, not because he lashes out, but because he never needs to. If you're done reacting like the rest, subscribe and hit the bell, not to follow noise, but to master your silence. The world pushes you to be reactive because reactive people are easy to manipulate. Say something offensive, they explode. Post something controversial, they respond. Touch a nerve, They lose control. And just like that, they're no longer in charge of themselves. But the man who practices mental silence is untriggerable. He sees the bait, he feels the pull, and he lets it pass. Because he understands that not everything deserves a reaction. And most things don't deserve him at all. You don't respond to prove your strength, you show restraint to confirm it. That's what separates the warrior from the impulsive. He doesn't respond to everything because he doesn't need to. His presence is already loud enough, his discipline already speaks. And the people who expect noise from you, the ones who need to see your reaction to feel in control, they fall apart in the face of your stillness. That's the paradox. When you stop proving, you start commanding. You're not the one scrambling to be understood. You're the one moving with purpose, in silence. That energy is rare, and it can't be faked. It's built in the early hours, in the moments when no one's watching, when your instincts scream to react and you choose stillness instead. That's where warriors are forged, not in battle, but in the discipline to wait for the right one. There's a reason most men never master mental silence. It's not loud, it's not flashy, and it doesn't give you instant gratification. But that's exactly what makes it rare. It takes patience to pause when your ego wants to strike. It takes awareness to sit in discomfort without reacting. And it takes vision to see that the strongest man in the room isn't the one shouting. It's the one watching, calculating, unmoved. As this power builds, something changes in how you move. You stop wasting words, you speak less, but when you do, it carries weight. Your energy shifts, people sense it. You don't argue, you set standards. You don't chase, you walk. You don't explain, you execute. You begin to realize that the loudest response to any attack is progress, and the deepest revenge is peace. That's what mental silence gives you, power that doesn't need performance. You no longer react to be heard, you act to stay aligned. You don't need the last word, because you've already moved on. You don't need to win the moment, because you're playing the long game. And in that space, in that internal quiet where most men fold, you build, you sharpen, you prepare. Not for everyone, not for approval, but for war. The kind fought in the mind, every day without witnesses. There comes a point where silence is no longer just a tactic. It becomes part of who you are. You don't flinch when provoked. You don't chase explanations. You don't perform for attention. You operate from a center so steady that chaos can't reach it. That's the edge. Not dominance over others, but dominance over your own instincts. That's the kind of man who doesn't just move different, he lives different. You start showing up in ways that catch people off guard. You enter rooms without needing to take up space, yet your presence fills it. You speak when necessary, but never out of impulse. Your silence begins to carry a reputation, not of coldness, but of control. People may not know what you're thinking, but they'll feel that you've already thought deeper than they ever will. And this isn't about detachment for the sake of ego, it's about protecting your power. Choosing calm over chaos, discipline over drama, precision over panic. You're not here to be loud, you're here to be sharp, focused, unshakable. Because when everything around you is noise, your silence becomes a weapon. The kind that doesn't need to be seen to be feared. So now ask yourself, in a world built to trigger you at every turn, are you still just reacting, or are you finally